Thank you, Marina, for having me. And thank you for being here. Okay, so when reflecting upon which tale to tell for Our Lips Unsealed, I couldn't decide which decade to dabble in. How low could I go in exposing my naivete and lack of nuance? How vastly vulnerable I could sink, like some kind of modern-day Molly Brown. Do you guys know who Molly Brown? Oh, good. You guys are a little bit older. Good. Good. Wallowing in self-pity or proudly projecting names of fame, the gossipy tidbits that we guiltily wallow in, name-dropping like a loathsomely literate Dorothy Parker. Do I lay down the story of when a dripping wet Richard Hell, ensconced in only an itty-bitty towel, standing up from his bathtub in his funky but not chic East 12th Street apartment, when I innocently came over to try to help him write his memoir? True, I just found a whole folder of Richard Hell stuff. Or do I prove I'm a legit indie rock chick because I collaborated with Kathleen Bikini Kill Hanna, you know who that is, right? On an enchanting MTV-produced Riot Girl special called Ain't Nothing But a She Thing, still not on YouTube, shamefully. How about the time I took Tommy Stinson of The Replacements in his striped pants, tousled hair prime, yum, and me in a modly fitted, thrift-shopped polka dot dress, kind of like this one, on an exuberant motorcycle ride in Central Park, trying to pretend I'm a cool as fuck tenacious rocker, and then feebly running out of gas in the middle of the park and in the middle of the night. True story. My Keith Richards crawling under my chair story always fetches good hits when I repost it on Facebook every year on his birthday. But how about the time I went into the then brand new vegetarian joint on Hudson Street in the West Village before I would ever contemplate giving up the red meat diet Mama raised me on, and I was about to order when a familiar streetwise voice cut me off. I'll try what's that tofu thing Lori likes? Some kind of stir-fried blackened tofu nuggets dish? Or do we want what is that? A black bean casserole with quinoa and kale? This is like 1998, so. I just gazed in awe at my living, breathing, black-leathered, he was in faded denim, idol, and the reason I moved to New York City and living just around the corner. Yes, I'm waiting for my man, Lou Reed, to order. I have loads of these living in Gotham City tales. No kids, we will never ever again see our city so unslick, so intensely ravaged, so gruesomely gritty, so down and dirty, so melting potted, so tenement funstered. So let's cut to the 90s, shall we? The 80s were kind of a bust for me. I didn't care for the fluffed out hair, the puffed out shoulders, or the poofed out popular music at the time, though I've since learned to love it, easier to digest than the comparatively abhorrent top 40 of today, as Spandau Ballet declared true. Sorry to people that like modern music, but okay, so here's the story. Okay, it's gonna go within the time, don't worry, Marina. Okay, cut to June 29th, 1994. Scene, First Avenue nightclub in Minneapolis, which Prince put on the map with his Purple Rain cinema bonanza. Me, a DIY, NYC, not quite riot girl, psychedelic punk, about to play electric zither on stage, true, with nouveau musical collage sensation Beck, who was at his first pinnacle of success with Loser, an irresistible, scratchy, catchy, smashy, sweetheart of a song. I still love it. When I first caught sight of the lemon-haired tiger, it was on a poster with his name and photo at a record shop in the village. I thought to myself, but there's only one Beck, and that's Jeff Beck. But as soon as I heard that zinger of a single, I was hooked, line, and sinker. About a month later, I met him at the original knitting factory on Houston Street in New York City. The club really did have knitted sweaters that lined the entire circumference of the ceiling. Did anybody go there? Yeah, right on. Great place, right? Okay. Beck was delightful, delicious, and divine. I had a crush. As was my habit, I carried around a couple of my latest record on CD. After all, as Andy Warhol trained us, you'd never know who you'd run into on the streets, the galleries, and the clubs of Manhattan. In those days, it was all about Manhattan. The 80s and 90s were the last of the bohemian decades, where an artist could live quite comfortably in the city, and by comfortably, I mean barely surviving. My latest disc was called Funeral Rising, referring to smoke or the haze of fog, which referred to losing oneself in a hazy kind of existence, an existential angst in a blurry, fucked up world. With a cover that saluted breakfast at Tiffany's. Despite being an underground character, I always admired the glamour and allure of movie stars like Audrey Hepburn, who was ever so charming in the Blake Edwards flick. Plus, her version of Moon River, which she sang with such sincerity and heart, was so fetching. Did you know they wanted to cut that scene from the film edit, the final edit of the film? You did? Yeah. I stuck around after his set, that's going back to Beck now, lingering awkwardly. Remember, this is before you could pretend to be busy on your cell phone. I saw him hanging out by the back door and approached him. I bolstered up a bit of steadfast energy and said, "Here's an album I think you might dig." And he looked at the cover, stared at it a bit, and gently said, "I love her." Taken aback by his compliment, I said, That's me. I had blonde hair in real life, but on the album cover, I was a brunette. He then looked up with his big blue saucer eyes and said, "Oh yeah, cool. I love your music." My head started spinning. We could run off right now and be two little lo-fi gypsies and go around the globe making a cacophony of pop noise and live happily ever after. Well, I didn't say that, but I went my way and he went his. And he sent me postcards from tour. One from Texas that had blue bonnets on it. One from, gasp, Japan, where he wrote, "Eating soba noodles and thinking of you." Swoon, which was thoughtful and adorable. And now my good buddies Truman's Water were on tour with him and invited me to meet them in the Midwest. Well, maybe it was my idea, but they egged me on, which they were very fond of doing, and I was very fond of them for doing so. Black Hole, do you guys know the song Black Hole from his, it's really good. Black Hole is a loosey-juicy humdinger of a song, and when Beck saw me jam with Truman's Water the night before in Milwaukee and complimented me on my zither skills, I figured I'd ask, "How about we jam tomorrow night in Minneapolis?" He lit up and proclaimed yes, and took some time contemplating which number would work best. He suggested Black Hole would be the perfect song for that. Yippee. Oh, and I had given him one of my newly silkscreen t-shirts, "Smoke Gets in Your Mind," the promo tag I made up for the funeral campaign. And he disappeared as soon as I gave it to him, went into his dressing room, and came out wearing it as part of his stage getup. I've got that on video. I was impressed and pretty damn stoked. I was nervous and scared as I was about to prance up on the big First Avenue stage and plug in my electrified $3 zither and groove out with the boys in the band. Trumans were up there too. It's such a blur now as the harsh, bright lights blocked out much of my vision, and I made as much noise as I could with that metal thing with strings. My heart was bursting with happiness, and my ears were blasted out and blissed out with thick and fantastic frenetic noise. I was part of a scene, just a speckle of it, but it was all I ever dreamed of, to belong, to feel the noise, to feel free.